Good afternoon, and you're warmly welcome to this webinar on Erasmus Blended Intensive Courses. This webinar is specifically targeted for the teachers and staff members of the EU4DUAL Alliance. My name is Solja Ryhänen, and I come from the Savonia University of Applied Sciences. And together with me today, we have Nicolina Demar from Par University of Applied Sciences, sharing their recent BIP experiences. To start off, what are Erasmus Blended Intensive Program, also called as Erasmus BIPs? You might be familiar with traditional Erasmus student mobility, where our students can travel to another university for a minimum of 1 semester. But a few years ago, EU started the new initiative, Erasmus Blended Intensive Courses, which are short-term courses arranged jointly in cooperation with different European universities in one of the Erasmus program countries. And a special feature of this intensive program is that they should include both a physical and a virtual study component. There are a few requirements considering the participants of the course. So as for the organizers, there should be minimum of 3 universities from 3 different Erasmus countries. In practice, this means EU or EEA countries. Or in this context, of course, we wish that the organizers would be EU4DUAL partner universities. Non-EU partners or universities that are not eligible to Erasmus funding may join, but with their own funding, and they are not counted towards the minimum number of participants. As for the participants, the minimum number is from next academic year onwards, 10 participants from abroad, so 10 traveling students or staff members, because the participants can be either students or staff, or it can be a mixed course, having both students and staff participating. Commission recommends that there should not be more than 60 participants. The idea is to keep the intensive course somewhat interactive and not have it as like a mass lecture or such. So as a minimum, in case University A hosts a BIP, there should be at least 5 attendees from 2 different partner organizations or partner universities each. These Erasmus BIPs are especially recommended for students who have limited possibilities to participate in long-term mobility. They might, for example, have job obligations, like many of our dual students, or they might have families or health issues that prevent them from taking part in long-term mobility issues. There are a few requirements considering the courses as well. The minimum length, the physical length of the course cannot be less than 5 days, and it cannot be longer than 30 days. Students should earn minimum of 3 ECTS credits for the course. The typical length, however, is 5 days. In addition to the physical course, there should be a virtual component either before or after the physical mobility. And what is a virtual component? The idea is that the course would bring together the learners to work online collectively and simultaneously on some assignment that is part of the BIP and count towards the overall learning outcomes. The extent of the virtual component has not been defined, how many hours, how many days, how many credits it should be. But if you, for example, think that 1 ECTS credit course is worth around 80 hours, you cannot accomplish these 80 hours within 5 days. So there should be some kind of virtual component added to it. But the idea is really to bring the students to work together and not just passively listen to some lectures, for example, before the course. EU Commission has also given some ideas what would be sort of a good practice for these BIPs, and also we have some ideas what the EU4DUAL BIPs should look like. And we feel that the EU4DUAL BIPs especially should have some sort of a work-life integration. This could mean in practice, for example, students completing some kind of project, some kind of commissioned work for a company, or inviting guest lecturers from local companies in the BIP course. It should have some sort of added value. So not just copying an existing course that you have in your curricula, but really to embrace the fact that you can invite a special lecturer into the course, and you can visit or some special lab or facility that you would not have possibility otherwise, or embrace the fact that you can actually work together with other international colleagues and students, or anything that would be sort of bonus to your normal curriculum. EU4DUAL BIPs can have a link to one of the grand challenges, future of work, healthy living, or green economy, if that's relevant to your course. But if it's not relevant, it can be of some other topic or theme as well. A good idea is that it could include some challenge-based learning, so not just listening to lectures, but really students would be thrown some sort of a problem or challenge that they would need to solve together. The requirement is that the BIP should be part of each partner institution curriculum. It could be an optional course, or it could be part of an existing course, which is part of the curriculum. It is a good idea if the BIP encourages transdisciplinary and multinational teaching. So there could be several teachers from different universities. It's not required, but I think also it's a good idea. EU funds these BIP courses in two different ways. So each traveling participant, whether it's a student or a staff member who is a participant, or a teacher who will teach at the course in a foreign university, will receive a daily grant and a travel grant. Last year, for example, the grant for students for 5-day course was around 500 euros. And next academic year, the grant will be even bigger than that. So this will be paid by the home university, the sending university. There is additional support for students who are so-called students with fewer opportunities, so students who traditionally do not take part in mobility activities. Typically, this means students, for example, with serious health issues. And in each country, there's a different categories of students who can receive this special extra support. There's a principle that participants cannot be charged any program fees. There may be some fees for some free time activities that are voluntary, but studying itself should be free of charge. Then the host university who will organize the course will receive an organizational support, which currently varies between 4,000 and 8,000 euros, depending on the number of participants. And this organizational support is aimed for the implementation of the course. It could mean arranging field trips, excursions, renting special facilities or equipment, or preparing materials, or paying the salaries of the staff members, or inviting guest lecturers, or anything that you would consider that is a cost of this intensive course. At Savonia, we have arranged a few of these intensive courses already, and according to our experience, these organizational support covers rather nicely all the costs of the intensive courses. To give you some practical insight what this kind of intensive course could look like, there's an example of a recent course on business field that Savonia hosted this spring. The course was of the topic was Street Smart Business, and it was a course worth of 3 ECTS credits. The organizers hosted virtual meetings in the month of February, several of them, and then the actual intensive week took place in March and the length was 5 days. From the program, you can see that there was the program started on Monday with some welcoming session, ice-breaking, warm-up tasks for the students. Then there was a campus tour and a guest speaker related to the topic, and some free time activities in the afternoon. The next day, the students were able to visit 2 different companies, and they were introduced a challenge given by the companies. Then the students took part in a design thinking and problem-solving seminar, and then they started working on these challenges given to them. And then there was free time activities in the evening. And the program continued like this until Friday. And there's another example of a BIP that Savonia hosted a couple of years ago. In this case, there was only 1 virtual meeting before the actual 5-day event, but the program consisted of similar type of activities. There were several keynote speakers. The group visited close by lab where they're given presentations, and there was group work, and the program continued like this until Friday. So how to proceed in case you get excited on these kinds of BIPs. This is an example timeline in case you would like to host this kind of BIP or be partner in it in academic year 25-26. So first, we would advise you to contact your home university international office to express your interest, and they can be of great help in linking with you with different universities and giving guidance on many of the practical issues. First step would be to map potential partners, and hopefully they would be within the EU4DUAL Alliance. And once you have found your partners, you would plan the content with them. And this could take place during the autumn/winter semester 25. Annually, there is a deadline each February where the coordinating university of the BIP should apply for the organizational support. So before February, in case your university would be the organization, your organizing university should be aware of your BIP plans, and they would need to apply for the funding. Funding decisions arrive around the month of May, and in case your BIP is funded, you could then run it during the academic year 25-26. Application itself is not very complicated. Universities only need to list the estimated number of participants. So you don't need to have in the application the detailed description of the program or the timing of the course. But of course, it's a good practice that by the time when you apply for the funding, you already know roughly the content of the program, the timing, and the partners. So when you start planning this course together with your partners, what to plan? Of course, the location of the course, who the university would like to host the course, what would be the timing? You need to find a suitable slot that fits each university's academic calendar. What would be the course topic and the main themes? And what would be the extent in credit-wise of the course? What's the target audience, whether it's the bachelor students, what's the master students, what would be the target degree programs, etc. What would be the content and extent of the virtual component, and roughly how we'd like to use the budget, the organizational support. Then closer to the actual program, you would need to consider some of the practical issues, for example, the housing of the students. But in these practical issues, all international offices, both in host and the sending university, can be of great help. And next, I would like to give the floor to my colleague Nicolina, who would like to share some experiences of one of their recent BIPs.
Thank you, Sonia, and hi, everybody, welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Nicolina Demark from Par University of Applied Sciences in Croatia. I'm head of the International Office, and I wanted to present an example of a BIP that we carried out with partners who are not part of EU4DUAL, but to this date is my favorite example of a BIP that we participated in. So following the structure in the outline that Sonia just presented, a bit of information about this BIP, which was called Sustainable Tourism Business Development. So we organized this in collaboration with two universities, the BXL University of Applied Sciences and Arts and the city of Hasselt in Belgium, and Satakunta University of Applied Sciences in Finland. BXL was the host, and PAR and Satakunta were the participating partners who sent their students to the BIP. The program was carried out in November 2022, the physical part. We had online meetings beforehand and after for the online component. And the program itself, from the academic point of view, dealt with tourism management and marketing. So we had a nice ensemble of students of various disciplines and backgrounds, but most of them studied, for example, the students from PAR were business management students. We had some marketing students, tourism students, journalism, and other related fields. Quite often it can happen that a BIP or any short program can be interdisciplinary in content to allow for participation of as many students of different backgrounds, and each of them can then contribute or bring some expertise of their own. In this case, we had over 20 students because I believe from PAR we sent 9. We had much more interest than we originally expected. From Satakunta, I believe there was also over 5. Then each, I think. And then we also had some students from the hosting institution, from PXL, joining our student group. So we had 3 faculties taking part in the BIP. Sonia, could you go to the next slide, please? Mm-hmm. So the central project assignment of this particular BIP was to create an innovative product for a business client in international teams. So what the university in Hasselt did was collaborate with their local tourism office or the tourism board of their whole region. And they provided them with a project assignment of turning the castle of Ludwig and XIV, which is quite a well-known castle from a noble family that resided in the area quite close to Hasselt, which was a historical castle, but it hasn't been used for a specific purpose for quite a while. So to give it to the students. So to get workshops, they had to come up with a specific purpose for the castle. So let's say bring new life into it. That would turn it into a new tourism destination for the region and attract as many international visitors as possible. Another highlight was for the students to put some focus on sustainability of the destination, both in, let's say, environmental terms, but also in financing terms. So what the tourism board wanted to achieve was for the destination to, let's say, finance itself or keeps itself running. Next slide, please. So according to, let's say, the organization timeline that Sonia presented, we were first approached by BXL, who are our partners have been for many years now, and a third university as well. We agreed that we will collaborate on this and requested funding and were granted funding for a BIP for 20 students. For the online part, we wanted to do an introduction of staff and students because we realized while doing other short programs similar to this one was that students tend to work better in groups if they're met each other already. So since the online part took place in the weeks leading up to the trip to Belgium, the students got to know each other. They were introduced to visiting staff who were also lecturers and guest teachers, and were allowed some time for a preparation phase of sorts. So they were sent an inspiration guide to the region to get acquainted with the graphical, historical, and so on, and also some information about the tourism office, as it was an unofficial client of the program. They also knew in advance what their task would be, so they had some time to look into the information, do some online searches, and maybe come up with a few, let's say, starting ideas to get going as soon as they got to Belgium. For the physical mobility, this part took, it was 5 days long. So students visited Hasselt. We were hosted by the BXL University and had quite a diverse and interesting program, both for the students and the accompanying staff. Myself and our dean also accompanied students to this program. So the first 2 days, apart from the introduction, they had lectures and presentations from the tourism board, from an expert in the history of the region, and a couple of other guest lecturers who talked about sustainability in destination tourism, who talked about, let's say, repurposing of historical locations for tourism purposes. So they were given quite a nice overview of all the various topics and aspects they could use to work on their project assignment. On Wednesday, we took a whole day field trip to the castle of Lutbelanca-Tors. So they were given a tour by an expert who also lives on the castle grounds. They had quite a lot of time. I think it was a few hours to walk around the castle, visit all the rooms, map out the plan, and work in teams on possible purpose or content for specific rooms and areas around the castle. And then we had a couple of other stops on the tour that day. They had additional lectures on Thursday. They were given a lot of time to work on their project assignments and presentations in groups as well. And on Friday, they gave their final presentations in front of a jury. So they proclaimed the winner, and it was quite a nice atmosphere overall. Once we all got back to Belgium, to our respective countries, we had a second online part for some conclusion and reflection on what the students learned and what they could bring and maybe utilize the knowledge in the future. Next slide, please. Okay, so I just popped in a couple of additional photos here because I wanted to mention added value that Solja also mentioned in her presentation. So apart from the academic content and teamwork and just bringing the creativity out of students, they had the opportunity to get acquainted with the region, which has quite an interesting cultural heritage. In the city of Eisden, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation, it's known for its coal mines, which are not functional anymore, but it has a long history of mining. And the activity as such has brought a lot of intercultural community to the area. So a lot of the social, let's say, demographics, the demographic situation in the region has to do with their mining heritage. So the students got to visit the city and a traditional, like a typical miner's house from the, I think, the middle of the 20th century or the beginning of it. We also had quite a nice chance to practice our intercultural competences because at the time we were visiting Hasselt, the World Cup of 2022 was going on. And on a very specific day, I think it was Thursday, it was actually Croatia and Belgium who were playing against each other. So we wanted to, approach the situation quite carefully, but the students were absolutely fabulous. They had the initiative to get together, and our hosting students at the BXL University organized a joint watching of the game. They brought snacks and some drinks, and the students all sat together, watched the game, and cheered for each other. And unfortunately, I don't remember who won, but it was quite a fantastic atmosphere overall. So it was nice to see students, collaborating in an event which can get quite emotional and hectic otherwise. So we gave them a very flying grades for that. So I think this is it from my slides. Overall, this was quite a nice experience. I loved it because the educational content was quite nicely covered. It wasn't just a trip to Belgium. There were a lot of lectures and learning outcomes that were planned in the program from the beginning, but the students also got a chance to see some cultural heritage and to practice their teamwork.
Thank you, Nicolina. Okay, I hope you all are as excited as Erasmus Blended intensive courses as we are. We feel that this is a really great opportunity to provide opportunity for students, especially who are a little bit maybe shy ones or other ones who do not want or cannot spend a long time abroad. As I mentioned, where to get more information if you get excited, it's your local international office. EU has also created this kind of guide on blended intensive courses. I can share the link in the chat. And we have also prepared a one-pager for you, with which you can take, for example, to your colleagues and present the BIP idea to them. Let's see if I can share it with you. It gives some basic information. And finally, we would like to collect some information in case there are even some preliminary ideas on intensive courses within the EU4DUAL. So we have created this little short survey just asking about if there are some special topics that you might be interested in creating a BIP. This is not binding or anything. so just to get an idea of what types of nuggets there could be for BIPs. So I will also share this link in the chat so you can answer right away or a little bit later on. If you would like to brainstorm a little bit, you can answer anonymously, or then in case you want, you can also leave your email and your international office can then be in contact with you and start planning these BIPs together. Currently, there is no question at the question and answer section, but would any of the participants now have some questions? You can open your mic and ask or comment or anything. Okay.
There's a question in the chat.
Yes.
It is
So there's a
me.
question.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. So is it possible to spend a part of the organizational cost on outside trainings, for example, the expert? Yes, it is possible if you would like to invite a special guest lecturer to the course and pay their salaries. It is possible, yes. Good question.
And maybe one more question. Can I ask that now?
Sure.
Is it a kind of percentage that is allowed from the general cost? Do you know it?
No, unless there are any local institutional requirements, but EU just gives each host a lump sum and they can use it however they want, and it's not reported, but please check from your local international office in case they have any limitations.
Thank you very much indeed.
Generally, no.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? If no, we would like to thank you all for your time, and please be in contact with us in case there's no stupid questions at this point. We are all very in the beginning in creating all this. So hopefully this was helpful, and you can find this recording at the EU4DUAL YouTube channel, and we will distribute these materials within our universities as well. So thank you, everyone, and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.